Hi, this is Shelley Kraft. We're coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the Cambridge House Silver Summit in Spokane, Washington, 2013. With me is Leonard Melman of the Melman Report, newsletter writer, featured speaker at the conference. Welcome to SNNLive.
Well, Shelley, it's a pleasure to be here again.
Welcome back. So, what are you speaking about?
The topic of my presentation was that I feel we're at a crisis point in the precious metals, both fundamentally and technically referring to chart analysis. In both forms of analysis, I think we're at a really critical point, and that was the topic that I developed.
So when your audience sits there, what do you think is going on in their minds?
I think over the last 2 years, the primary thought is, I've gone to all these conventions, and everybody has had these tales of we're going to have hyperinflation, we're going to have a breakdown in Europe, we're going to have a collapse of the U.S. economy, we're going to have all these horror stories, and yet none of them have come true. And they've gone out and bought precious metals or shares at each convention they've gone to, and finally they're saying, wait a minute, how, is all of this ever going to happen, at least in my lifetime? I think that's the kind of skepticism we have out there, and that kind of skepticism has hurt the mining shares because people only absorb so many losses and then they stop investing. So what they want is some solid indication that there may indeed be better times ahead.
And how did you answer that?
Okay, I answered that first. Like I say, I'm also, just for the record, I'm a member of the Canadian Society of Technical Analysts, so I do a lot of chart analysis. If you look at the chart on gold, it's absolutely fascinating. We fell in June to 1,175. Then we had that 2-month rally that got us up to 1,430, and then we had a second leg down which brought us to 1,260. We have a bottom at 1,175, another bottom at 1,260. If we don't go below that 1,260 level and start up, we have one of the most classically bullish chart formations in existence, a widespread double bottom. The key point, now that we're headed up again, we're right at about 1,350 as we're talking. If gold can exceed 1,430, that intermediate peak, I think we have a very bullish situation. And one of the things I pointed out to the crowd is if we do get that kind of move, the whole sentiment could change almost overnight. And just imagine the money waiting on the sidelines to buy these ultra cheap shares. It could be spectacular. So I offered that possibility. And I also talked about how the United States just appears to be entering a period when the country is not running efficiently. And boy, do we have an example in Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, if you prefer. As a matter of fact, the piece I wrote on my website this morning dealt with all of the troubles that are starting to surround that whole care. The computer fiasco is an embarrassment of the most major proportion. But there's more than that. Because of some of the provisions, the employers are actually reducing the hours of their employees to avoid being trapped in the thing. The potential price increases of insurance for people who are not on the dole is staggering, and it's arousing a great deal of anger. And even Democrats are now appealing to President Obama to delay the implementation of the whole darn thing until it can be made to run efficiently. That's the kind of thing that starts to break down confidence among the public in their government and in their society, and a breakdown of confidence historically benefits the precious metals. So if we can get both together, the chart breaking solidly to the upside and a continuing accelerating parade of, I hate to say it, but bad news, we could have an explosive rally in the precious metals, and I believe we're at a crisis point on both. And that was the essence of the talk I presented.
Well, if I may, when you say double bottom, you're talking about the W shape, and W stands for win.
Exactly. Down on one side, up in the middle, down in the middle, and up the other side forms a W. And when those break to the upside, I'll give you an absolute classic example, one of the greatest in history. For us graybeards, in 1974, there was a horrible bear market in securities. It had begun in 1971, and by 1974, the Dow had lost half its value, from almost 1,100 down to 570. It was the worst since the Depression. Well, it formed that bottom at 570 in June of 1974. Then there was a substantial rally, perhaps to about 700 on the Dow, and then a second down leg that ended in December, but it ended above 570. And when it turned upward and broke above that intermediate high, that set in motion the bull market that eventually reached 12,000 in 1999. Yeah, so in
87
years,
it had a bottom.
Yeah, it had a one-day bear market is what it amounted to.
575 points.
Yeah, that's pretty substantial. But in any case, the market just continued to overcome all obstacles until finally the dot-com rally played out. But by then the Dow was 12,000, so it had increased more than 20 times in value in one generation, and the fortunes that were made are beyond astonishing. So if we have the same kind of thing develop, the last gold bull market went from 250 to 1935, a multiple of short of 8 times over. Well, if we start at 1175 and go up 8 times over, we're talking about $10,000 in gold. Sounds crazy today, but if somebody had said the Dow would reach 12,000 in 1974, they'd have been called crazy too. Those are the things that happen, and you look for potential turning points, and I feel we're at a point in time where either is going to take place. We're going to break down, there'll be oblivion, or for the precious metals, we're going to rise very sharply, starting by the end of this year and going through 2014 and beyond.
Let's get a website, ladies and gentlemen.
The website is the Melman Report. It's www.themelmanreport.com.
You know, good synopsis. I want to say that, Leonard. I think people should go to your website and find out more that you have to say. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive. This is Leonard Melman of the Leonard Melman Report, themelmanreport.com. He's newsletter writer, featured speaker at this conference, and many others, I might add. We're at the Cambridge House Silver Summit in Spokane, Washington, 2013. Leonard, your insights are terrific. Thanks for coming on.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you.